الحمد لله الحمد لله الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا وهو العزيز الغفور وأصلي وأسلم على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا وحبيبنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وعلى من اتبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. Alhamdulillah, by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that I am able to be here this evening in this very special occasion. Let me recognize my esteemed colleagues and distinguished speakers very briefly. Of course, I would like to recognize the presence of Professor Omar Kasole from IIIT, my dear brothers from Indonesia, Bapak Muhammad Habib Khirzin, whom I have been in contact for several times now, and Professor Mulyadi, whom I have not met for a long time since we were in Brunei, Darussalam, together. And there's also Dr. Muhammad Noor, Adinda, Dr. Muhammad Noor, I hope you're there. And then, and also Professor Fauzan from Malaysia, Professor Dr. Muhammad Noor Manuti from Malaysia, and Bapak Dr. Ahmad Lubis, Indonesia. And I would like to also recognize, although I don't see them on the screen, but I suppose my Ananda Ahmad Fakhri, Muhammad Faisal, Aisha, of course, in Jakarta, and Afifa in the US. All these three are in the US. I hope they are with us this evening. And brothers and sisters from Malaysia, Indonesia, USA, and the Middle East. So I am, again, before I start, I would like to thank IIIT of Malaysia for inviting me to make this presentation in about 30 minutes. Dear brothers, dear sisters and brothers, with the return of our beloved brother Al-Marhum, Dr. Andes Haji Mohammad Siddik, MA, on the 29th of June 2021, that is to say, on the 18th of Dhul Qa'dah, 1442, to the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Muslim community of Indonesia and the Malay world have lost a great mujahid ad-da'wah al-Islamiyah, an indefatigable global worker, intellectual, activist, motivator, strategist, thinker, and reformist of Islam. From his teenage years as an active leader of Pelajar Islam Indonesia, PII, or Association of Muslim Students of Indonesia, until the last days of his earthly sojourn, Al-Marhum Mohammad Siddik never stopped working for the progress, well-being, and upliftment of the Muslim Ummah in Indonesia and worldwide, following the advice, the example, and the footsteps of his beloved mentor, inspirational teacher, and ummatic leader of modern Indonesia, Al-Marhum Bapak Dr. Muhammad Natsir, the first Prime Minister of United Republic of Indonesia, and the founder chairman of Dewan Dakwah Islamiyah Indonesia, and the Indonesian Council of Islamic Dawah. Al-Marhum brother Siddiq worked for the Dewan Da'wah in many capacities, the last being as its chairman from 2015-2020, the position held by the highly revered Pak Natsir for many decades. Apart from being the chairman of Dewan Da'wah, until a year ago, He was one of the founders of Partai Amanat Nasional, or PAN, or the National Amanah Party, which was first led by Dr. Amin Rais. The chairman of the PAN party in the parliament, or DPR, Mr. Saleh Partaunan Daule, remarked that, I quote, Bapak Mohammad Siddik was a highly respected figure and was active in several dynamic ummatic programs. According to Brother Hadi Nur Ramadan, who is in charge of historical documentation at Dewan Da'wah, Al-Marhum Brother Mohammad Siddik, whose parents came from Pakistan to Indonesia in the late 1930s, was born in Kuala Simpang, Aceh province in North Sumatra on January 15, 1942. As a young boy, he loved to contemplate on words of wisdom, which were printed in the local newspapers or magazines. One of the words of wisdom he liked most is, live before you are born and die before your death. End of quote. Raised in modest family circumstances, he grew up in an environment which was very concerned about education and Islamic da'wah. He was already involved in the da'wah activities of the Association of Indonesian Muslim Students, or PIII, at the branch and district levels when he was in high school in Aceh. In 1962, Al-Marhum migrated to Jakarta and settled in Condet, East Java. After his father, who was a pious and strict man, passed away in December 1963, Al-Marhum took up the role of his father, taking care of his mother, siblings, and 4 children. Al-Marhum recalled that although his father was a small-time entrepreneur and did not leave behind much wealth, yet he bequeathed to his 8 children, and Muhammad Siddik being the eldest son, the habit of savings and the lasting legacy of religious education and commitment, for which Brother Muhammad Siddik was forever grateful and perennially appreciative. Thanks to his highly disciplined daily routine that he inherited from his father, he raised his first 4 children. Of course, now he has a 2-year-old Fairuz is still around, alhamdulillah. On the basis of a holistic Islamic educational paradigm, which integrates faith, knowledge, action, and ethics, and they are doing very well in America as successful professionals with Islamic values, raising wholesome families of their own in USA and Jakarta. Having personally witnessed how he raised his family and guided his younger brothers and sisters while I was in Indonesia for 8 months, I take my prayer or my songkok off at the way he systematically planned and strategized for the future well-being of his siblings as well as of his children. I think Dr. Muhammad Nur will remember very well how strict he was in raising not only his children, but his younger siblings. The children have, of course, produced 12 wonderful grandchildren so far, with some of them becoming Huffadul Quran at a very young age. Of course, we have to give a lot of credit to his good wife, Al-Marhumah, Madam Saadiyah, for all her dedication, perseverance, and sacrifices, who returned to the mercy of Allah several years ago. In Jakarta, Al-Marhum became a member of the Central Committee of PIII. He entered University of Indonesia to study economics, but could not complete his studies there because of the demise of his father, which forced him to spend time earning a living to support his mother and the family. Besides, the university curricula at that time were being infiltrated by President Sukarno's political ideology of guided democracy, demokrasi terpimpin, which was in fact an authoritarian dictatorship. He was against the political indoctrination in the university, so he joined the National University UNAS, which was headed at that time by independent intellectuals. By the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, President Sukarno's old order, Order Lama, backed by the powerful Indonesian Communist Party, which was the 3rd largest in the world, was toppled by the army led by Lieutenant General Suharto, and also the 1966 generation, which was spearheaded by Muslim youth and student organizations. And so the new order came into being. The Islamic leaders who were detained by the old order, including Al-Marhum Muhammad Nasir, Al-Marhum Buya Hamka, were released by the new military administration. Unfortunately, they were not allowed to revive the Islamic Party Mashumi or play active political roles. And this forced Al-Marhum Muhammad Nasir to form the Dewan Da'wah Islamiyah Indonesia, DDII, in 1967, thus heralding the new dawn for Islamic Dawah in Indonesia and Southeast Asia. Finishing his undergraduate studies in 1967, Al-Marhum Mohammad Siddik offered his services to his mentor and teacher, Bapak Muhammad Nasir, when Dewan Da'wah Islamiyah Indonesia was established in the premises of Masjid Al-Munawwarah, Tanah Abang, Jakarta. Sisters and brothers, since the 29th of June 2021, many brothers and colleagues in Indonesia have been narrating in the print media and online their memorable recollections of him. The narratives have served to bring to the surface the many dimensions of his Islamic and Ummatic personality, dedication, commitment, contributions, and sacrifices for the Muslim Ummah in Indonesia and many other parts of the world. Many people know that Al-Marhum had been away from Indonesia for many years, working and traveling in different capacities in the USA, Nepal, Saudi Arabia, and Malaysia. In all these countries, he gave priority to the advancement of Islam and the Muslims in Indonesia and many Muslim minority countries, using his good command of the English, Arabic, and Malay languages, I think maybe also Urdu, as well as his excellent communication, diplomatic, negotiation, and management skills to mobilize local Muslim intellectuals, religious, cultural, professional, and economic resources for the sake of developing and actualizing Ummatic educational and transnational projects. One of the educational and Ummatic projects close to his heart was the International Islamic University Malaysia project, in which he was involved as the official representative of the OIC in the university's Majlis or Council since 1983. He knew very well the pre-establishment development of IIUM project in the agenda of the OIC Foreign Ministerial meeting in 1982. I'm not sure whether he was able to attend this, but he remembers this. He was most appreciative and highly supportive of the unique IIUM model, which uses English and Arabic as the official media of instruction and which integrates Islamic revealed knowledge with professional disciplines in engineering, medicine, allied health sciences, pharmacy, natural sciences, economics, business, accountancy, information communication technology, architecture and environment, plus the social sciences and the humanities. Al-Marhum told me a couple of times in Malaysia that the IIUM model was an indirect embodiment of one of the major educational visions of Al-Marhum Bapak Muhammad Nasir, namely a higher education institution in Indonesia which integrates worldly sciences with Islamic religious sciences. I was informed by Al-Marhum Brother Siddik that the original model of such an integrated institution was initiated by Al-Marhum Bapak Nasir in the Sekolah Tinggi Islam, STI, established in June 1945 in Jakarta and later transferred to Yogyakarta to become the University Islam Indonesia, UII, in 1947. As the first private Islamic university in Indonesia, which combined worldly sciences and Islamic religious sciences, UII was the result of efforts by Al-Marhum Muhammad Hatta, Al-Marhum Muhammad Nasir, and many other Muslim leaders who wanted to create an alternative to the secular Eurocentric Dutch educational system. When Al-Marhum Brother Mohammad Siddik was in Malaysia, he was very popular among the Indonesian students in many Malaysian universities, and he never failed to encourage many Indonesian students to come and study in IIUM. On many occasions, he was instrumental in securing financial assistance from Arab philanthropic organizations in Saudi Arabia and Kuwait to finance the postgraduate studies of Indonesian students in IIUM. He continued to assist foreign students by getting international sponsorship for them to study in IIUM when he became the IDB representative for Asia Pacific region based in Kuala Lumpur for about 4 years. I am happy to hear from Dr. Adyan Hussaini. I hope he is there listening, from the current chairman of Dewan Da'wah, that all the narratives of Al-Marhum's memorial are going to be part of the biography of Al-Marhum being planned by Dr. Adyan Hussaini and his colleagues in Dewan Da'wah. I would like to propose to my dear brother, Dr. Adyan, and to my Adinda, brother, Dr. Muhammad Noor, the younger brother of Al-Marhum, to collect the hundreds or more of important letters of Al-Marhum, which he wrote in English, Indonesian, and Arabic, knowing that he was a prolific letter writer, together with important email messages he sent to many people, including his 3 or 4 children in the USA over the last decade or so, to be published as a separate book. And I hope Ananda, Ahmad Fakhri, and Muhammad Faisal would be able to take this initiative. Since he did not bequeath to us his rich, innovative, and important Islamic ideas in a single written work that I know of, although I was told by Adinda Muhammad Noori he was working on a book, but he never managed to get to finish it. And I think this could also be compiled with his hundreds or maybe thousands of letters in the 3 languages to be compiled into a separate book, separate from the Adinda Muhammad Noori. He was working on a book, but he never managed to get. And I'm sure, I believe that this project of critical analysis of his thoughts through his letters and unfinished book could even be a PhD research project on Islamic intellectual history of contemporary Indonesia. I hope Dr. Adyan Hussaini can float this idea to some universities in Indonesia, and they could get some 1 or 2 PhD candidates to work on the intellectual history of Indonesia based on the thoughts and ideas of Al-Marhum Mohammad Siddik. Let me now share with you my own small narrative. 5 decades ago, in 1968, I became a graduate student at Columbia University, New York. In 1970, Al-Marhum brother Mohammad Siddik came to New York to participate in an international youth conference. I think that was also the time when brother Anwar Ibrahim came to New York, and I met him there at the United Nations on the occasion of the 25th anniversary of the United Nations. Al-Marhum was a spokesman for the Indonesian delegation in the conference. My first impression of him at that time was that of an Islamic youth movement. I did not see him as an individual. I saw him as a movement in motion, who was trained by the dynamic and optimistic Islamic movements of Indonesia to create a brave new world. I developed an instant rapport with him, who was several months older than me. We were both born in 1942. He was born in January. I was born in October. And the spiritual and emotional bond that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forged between the two of us grew and blossomed till the end of his physical journey 11 days ago. Always looking for opportunities to further his studies and improve his English language proficiency, he managed to enroll in the master's program at Fairleigh Dickinson University in New Jersey, working part-time as a dishwasher at night to pay for his studies and living expenses. After getting his master's degree from the university, he returned to Indonesia, only to go back again to New York in 1974, if I'm not mistaken, when he secured a job at the UNICEF office. This time he was able to bring to New York his wife, Al-Marhumah, Madam Saadiya, and 3 children, Ahmad Fakhri, Muhammad Faisal, and Aisha. And they used to play with my son, Ahmad Hafiz, in the New York, or in the near the river, not far away from Columbia University. In the meantime, he was also trying to learn Arabic, a language he later mastered after living in Saudi Arabia for many years when working at OIC and later at IDB, and studying it in evening classes at the King Abdulaziz University in Jeddah. I must confess that I am most indebted to Al-Marhum brother Mohammad Siddik and his family for several reasons. I have 5 reasons. First, since I met him in 1970, and after being enlightened by him about many things going on in Indonesian society, state, and culture, I became highly interested and motivated to know more about Indonesian history, culture, politics, and the Muslim Ummah in the post-independence period, the period known as Orde Baru, or the New Order, under the military regime of Lieutenant General Suharto. Being attracted to the fascinating world of Indonesia, I decided to write my PhD dissertation on the Muslim intellectual responses to New Order modernization, or modernisasi di zaman Orde Baru. I had to do field research for 8 months in Indonesia. And this decision became the second reason for my indebtedness to Al-Marhum. Writing to me from Jakarta in 1972, Al-Marhum brother Siddik invited me and offered me, and later my wife, to stay in the house in Salimba Bluntas in Jakarta to conduct my research in Indonesia in 1973. And thirdly, while I was in Jakarta with my newly married wife, it was Al-Marhum brother Siddik who took the trouble to drive me on his Vespa scooter to meet and interview many Muslim leaders, thinkers, intellectuals, and scholars in and around Jakarta for several months. Thanks to his excellent arrangements and his reputation among the Muslim leaders in Jakarta, I had no problem interviewing the great Islamic leaders and intellectuals of contemporary Indonesia who were living at that time in the capital, such as Al-Marhum Pak Muhammad Natsir, Al-Marhum Buya Hamka, Al-Marhum Professor Muhammad Rashidi, Al-Marhum Dr. Anwar Haryono, and many others. And fourthly, Al-Marhum gave me access to many of the historical documents, including the past newspapers he had collected and stored in the attic of his Salimba Bluntas house. I remember going through hundreds of the old Islamic newspaper Abadi, which he had stored in the attic of his house. And many ideas about Islam, contemporary Islam, I gathered from the newspaper Abadi. The fifth reason has to do with the establishment and development of IIUM, which I have mentioned above. In this regard, I wish to add that Al-Marhum and Pak Muhammad Habib Khirzin became the 2 most important promoters and protagonists of one of the 7 missions of IIUM, namely the mission of Islamicization and integration of human knowledge, when both of them were appointed as the country representatives of IIIT in Indonesia. My colleagues and I in IIUM are most grateful to both Al-Marhum brother Siddik and Pak Habib Khirzin for their remarkable efforts, initiatives, and sacrifices of time, energy, and money to institutionalize the study and application of Islamic epistemology in the curricula of several private and public universities in Indonesia. In this regard, both Al-Marhum brother Mohammad Siddik from Jakarta and our dear brother Muhammad Habib Khirzin from Yogyakarta are not just mujahids of da'wah, but Indonesian intellectual advocates of Islamic holistic and integrated higher education in the 21st century, together with Dr. Adian Hussaini, Dr. Arif Shamsuddin, Professor Dr. Anis Malik Taha, Professor Dr. Hamid Fahmi Zarkashi, the rector of UNIDA, and also Muhammadiyah universities, and I must mention also INSIS, Institute of the Study of Islamic Thought and Civilization, to which Dr. Adian Hussaini and also Dr. Arif Shamsuddin are the pillars. I am very impressed indeed with the Islamic intellectual developments in Indonesia and the impact of the 2 IIIT mujahids, as well as the progress of the Islamic epistemology, consciousness, and discourse in current Indonesian academia. And I would like our IIUM's colleagues and friends to listen to them. I won't be surprised that in the post-pandemic era and by 2030, Indonesia would be the leading country in East Asia Pacific region, with Malaysia in the second place in the area of applied Islamic epistemology and Islamicization of the social sciences, humanities, and natural sciences, just as Islamic banking and finance, takaful and awqaf would be the mainstream socioeconomic trends in Indonesia before and after the collapse of the heartless global capitalism. In the next few pages, I will relate and summarize what some Indonesian colleagues and friends of Almarhum Brother Mohammad Siddik wrote in the last several days in his memory, as reported in an article by Iqbal Satyarso, which I translate here, Mohammad Siddik, through organization he bequeathed his work, which was published in Panji Masyarakat 10 days ago. Now, the current chairman of Dewan Da'wah, Dr. Adian Hussaini, recalled that a few days before Almarhum was admitted to the hospital, he had the opportunity to discuss over the phone with Almarhum matters related to an online meeting on June 15, 2021, with all the members of the working committee of Dewan Da'wah. Dr. Adian Hussaini said that in several meetings held in Dewan Da'wah, the spirit of Almarhum Brother Siddik was comparable to a youth with full of energy. Imagine, he said, at the age of 77, he managed to get a child by the name of Fairuz from his second wife, who is a widow. Alhamdulillah, both of them are healthy and at home, alhamdulillah. Although they were also exposed to the pandemic, but alhamdulillah, they are okay. He continued saying that every time Almarhum Brother Siddik visited Pesantren At-Taqwa in Depok, he told Dr. Adian Hussaini, who was heading the Pesantren, that he hoped his latest daughter, Fairuz, would be able to be a resident student at the Islamic Residential School or Pesantren when she grows up. According to Dr. Adian and his colleagues, Almarhum Bapak Siddik was simply extraordinary as an Islamic leader. At 79 years of age, he never seemed to stop struggling for the interests of Islamic da'wah in Indonesia and around the world. Almarhum was not only good in communicating his views, he was a seasoned negotiator and effective lobbyist for getting funds from inside or outside of the country to finance da'wah-related works, as testified by Bapak Zulkifli Hassan, the deputy chairman of the Parliament of Indonesia, who was recently approached by Almarhum. Let me just, I want to share with you what I recall, how Pak Siddik was actually a very capable negotiator and lobbyist. I was in his car and he was driving, and I kept telling him, Dick, I said, please get a driver, because, you know, he was driving with the right hand and his left hand was at the phone calling the Saudi ambassador, and telling the Saudi ambassador that he's coming to the office and to talk. So the right hand driving, left hand talking. I said, this is very dangerous. Alhamdulillah, he got a driver maybe just a few years ago, but before that, he was driving and he was doing the work in the car. In the Islamic University, Sharif Hidayatullah in Jakarta, an Islamic epistemology and integration of knowledge program was initiated by Almarhum and Prof. Mulyadi Kartanagara, alhamdulillah, the well-known expert in Islamic philosophy and Islamic science, was very much involved in this program. It was Almarhum who informed me, and this is also very important, in 2008, that a good book, Ayat Kauniyah, on cosmic science in the Quran was published by Dr. Agus Purwanto, who obtained his PhD in particle physics in Hokkaido University in Japan. And now Dr. Agus Purwanto is a full professor of physics since 2015. And he got me to speak to Dr. Purwanto from his house in Jakarta, because I would like to invite him to come to IIUM to speak about his book. Alhamdulillah, his other books now coming out. And since then, Prof. Agus Purwanto became a good friend of IIUM and IIIT in Indonesia. It was only 10 days ago that Prof. Agus Purwanto revealed to the public what many people, and I did not know, what also Pak Adian did not know, that Almarhum Mohammad Siddik had personally donated a substantial amount of money to enable Prof. Purwanto to buy a piece of land in Saragen, Jawa Tengah, Central Java, to build the first ever pesantren science or science-based traditional Islamic boarding school in Indonesia. I do not know if Prof. Umar Kasole has been able to visit that pesantren science. Our dear brother Muhammad Habib Khirzin, who had a long relationship with Almarhum since student days, related that brother Muhammad Siddik was selected in 1966 as the Secretary General of Indonesian Youth Committee, or KPI, which was affiliated to the World Assembly of Youth, or WAY, with headquarters in Brussels. As the chairman of the Students' Council of Gontor Institute of Education, brother Muhammad Habib Khirzin met Almarhum in a WAY conference in Jogja. In 1978, brother Muhammad Habib once again met Almarhum in Kathmandu, Nepal, because Almarhum was working with UNESCO in Nepal. Since then, the relationship between Pak Habib and Almarhum, including that of their spouses, because they used to visit each other's house, one in Yogyakarta, the other in Jakarta. This relationship and family relationship developed even further after both of them became the country representatives of IIIT in Indonesia. Brother Habib Khirzin relates to me that he shall never forget the contribution of Almarhum Mohammad Siddik in facilitating. I see Prof. Aslam. I have just another 2 pages, if you don't mind.
No problem, Prof, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Another 2 pages, that's all. That he will never forget the contribution of Almarhum Mohammad Siddik in facilitating and expediting the international recognition of what is now forgotten, IFTIHAR, or the International Islamic Forum on Sciences, Technology, and Human Resources Development, which was also initiated with Almarhum B.J. Habibie. And the signing of the document of its establishment in Jeddah and in Mecca, because they plan to have the signing also in front of the Kaaba in 1966. At the time, Brother Muhammad Khirzin, together with Almarhum Bapak Dr. Insinyur Imaduddin Abdul Rahim and Professor Jimli As-Siddiqi and others, was sent by Almarhum B.J. Habibie, who became the 3rd president of Indonesia in 1998, to meet the president of IDB, Dr. Ahmad Muhammad Ali, in Jeddah, in order to get his signature of endorsement for the establishment of IFTIHAR. Almarhum Mohammad Siddik, who was working at IDB in those days, facilitated not only the process of getting the official signature at IDB, but also the signing of the document of establishment of IFTIHAR in front of the Kaaba in Al-Masjid al-Haram. I really envy Bapa Ahmad, Bapa Habib Khirzin and the others who were able to be in front of the Kaaba in 1966. Now, for 10 years, both Almarhum Muhammad Siddik and brother Muhammad Habib Khirzin worked hard to provide, to promote the educational transformational agenda of IIIT and the very important InterVarsity Consortium for the promotion of Islamic epistemology and integration of knowledge that both of them set up in Indonesia. Every year they had to attend the annual meeting of East and Southeast Asia representatives of IIIT with the regional representatives from Japan, South Korea, China, Hong Kong, Cambodia, Thailand, Philippines, Brunei, Malaysia, and Singapore. They also work together with IIUM in Gombak in textbook writing projects, as well as bringing Professor Emeritus Dr. Abdul Hamid Abu Sulaiman to Jakarta, I think about 3 years ago, to give his advice on the Indonesian proposal for the establishment of the Indonesian International Islamic University. And I'm coming to the last page. For the information of my colleagues in IIUM, both Al-Marhum and Bapak Muhammad Khirzin, Habib Khirzin, were instrumental in getting several senior academic staff of IIUM for several years to go to some selected Indonesian universities, public and private, to give lectures and conduct workshops on the application of Islamic epistemology in several disciplines. In economics and finance, they got Professor Aslam to come many times. In the psychology, they got Al-Marhum Professor Malik Badri to be there, and he became very popular, and they managed to set up now an association of Islamic psychology. God bless them. And sociology, they got Professor Haziza Noon. For education, they got Professor Rosnani. For Islamic thought, they got Professor Ibrahim Zain and Kamal Hassan. I believe this international cooperation will continue to grow in the years ahead. And I think Indonesia, Prof. Aslam, is going to lead us, and IIUM and Malaysia will be behind them. We have been informed that Al-Marhum Mohammad Siddik, when Al-Marhum Mohammad Siddik, and this is the last part, this is the last paragraph, was appointed to head Dewan Da'wah in 2015 until his term ended a year ago, he had to face newer and greater challenges because the Da'wah scenario in Indonesia had become more complex, beginning with the advent of the publicly assertive Shia propagation and propaganda among the Sunni communities throughout the archipelago, the resurgence of LGBTQ movement and discourse within the Muslim community and also among Muslim elites and academics in Indonesia, and then more challenging Christian evangelization movements using several tactics and techniques of bringing people to Christianity, and then political attempts to revive the communist ideology and also the leanings towards a communist China, in addition to the emergence of several deviant religious sects. But with the commitment and assistance from many Islamic scholars, intellectuals, and da'is throughout Indonesia, and by the grace of and mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Al-Marhum was able to respond effectively to those challenges. Now, and this is the last part, now that Al-Marhum has left the earthly sphere of existence, we hope and pray that his legacy of complete and wholehearted dedication to the cause of Islamic da'wah, sincere commitment and passion for the promotion of Islamic epistemology and Islamicization of thought, culture, and society in Indonesia and Southeast Asia will continue to be enriched, expanded, and sustained by his able successors in Dewan Da'wah, led, of course, by Dr. Adyan Hussaini and fellow mujahideen of da'wah outside of Dewan Da'wah. In the end, we beseech Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to shower his infinite grace, compassion, and mercy upon the soul of Al-Marhum Muhammad Siddik. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestow his manifold blessings, forgiveness, magnanimity, and clemency upon Al-Marhum in the world of Al-Barzakh, while his soul is elevated to be among the blessed company of the Salihun, the Muttaqun, and the Mujahidun, to prepare for his final entry, bifadlillah, into the coveted gardens of Jannatul Firdaus. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. Rabbana ighfir lana wa li ikhwanina alladhina sabaquna bil iman ولا تجعل في قلوبنا غلا للذين آمنوا ربنا إنك رؤوف رحيم وبالله التوفيق والهداية والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.